unopened.
So
I don't
apparently,
understand why they deliver that and knowing it's empty. And just I don't get it.
Yeah, I had that happen to a bunch of bolts and screws and hardware that I got from a company. And the whole end doesn't look like it was ever sealed.
Okay.
Came in, yep. And I go, there's supposed to be about 1,200 pieces in here. They resent it.
so apparently, I just tried it and we are live streaming to YouTube.
Cool.
It
I
says
can't tell
live
any
stream.
difference.
Yeah. So
It just
looks
gave me
like
an
we're,
alert.
yeah, looks like we're successful with that. Um,
Do you have a title that it's under?
I will
On
get
YouTube?
that in a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. I just got the
Yeah.
alert saying, "Do you agree?" And I said, "Okay." So I guess
It's under CNC Mixer. Let me see if I can share a link. Like I said, this is just as new to me as it is to you. But with Facebook changing all the policies, might as well broadcast somewhere else.
Yep. I see it over there.
Yeah. So, no, very cool. Anybody get to play with the new Aspire anymore or the new VCar Pro?
yeah, I looked at Aspire a little bit. They changed it around, and I don't know why they changed everything, but the stuff is still there. You just got to hunt for it a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been using it for a couple weeks. And at
Mhm.
first, yeah, the older you get, the less change you want.
Right.
And I thought, well, okay, this is like trying to push a noodle uphill. So I just found everything finally.
Mhm.
And there's a bunch of new additions that I kind of like. It appears to me that they haven't quite got everything released yet. Or they thought, okay, let's just let her go and we'll go on the complaint process and say, okay, we need to add some more stuff here.
Mhm.
The 3D editing, I kind of like. I wonder if they aren't going to move toward having one screen instead of a 2D screen and a 3D screen. It just,
Interesting. Yeah.
why else would you introduce editing vectors on the 3D view tab? It's the only thing I can come up with, but they allow you to do certain things on the 3D.
Yeah.
Uh, maybe might be
I
easier if we pop it up.
Sure. I think they allow you to edit on the 3D window because there are times when you want to put a vector around a specific portion of a drawing so that it just machines in that area.
Right.
Yeah, well,
Um,
this one here, you got sharing
Hang
open.
on just a second. I will.
Well, looks like it already took it.
Yep. No. Let's start that
Yeah.
again.
There we go.
All right. Hang on.
Look at all the stuff Milo's got.
Yeah, on here, let's just do some silly stuff here. Close.
Okay, it's still going. Just
Uh,
double checking.
Okay, it's still going.
Yep.
Yeah, come back on.
Hmm.
Okay, now we're gonna move you guys out of the way. See the XY coordinates.
Oh yeah.
And now this is on the 3D view. Now, if you click here, you can now type in a specific size.
Right.
Here's a rotation. Or
Yeah.
actually, I guess that's a rounded off edge. So
The
there's
radius.
several different things you can do here. However, what you cannot do is if you go to node editing, you can't right click and get more options.
Yeah, there's a hidden menu.
And, you can move stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't delete them or change this to a Bezier or an arc. That has to be
Yeah,
done back here again.
yeah, there's a hidden menu for that. I found it, but I don't remember where it was.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
And you
think
could
Here,
about it.
also memorize the keyboard shortcuts, and I bet they still work.
yeah, that
Yeah,
probably is true.
Like
let me-
go over a node and hit the D key.
Yeah, that will not work either.
Click
The
it.
answer I got from Vetric was that this is not currently enabled
Uh,
or
oh,
finished or whatever you want to call it. Is they probably needed some revenue like we were just talking about, and let's get it out there.
mhm.
And if people complain about it enough and want something else, and
they always do an update to beat the pirates.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But it's interesting.
it has a lot
That
of.
little device up there in the upper right corner surprised me as well.
Yeah, this thing. I've
Yeah,
seen
Yeah.
that
yeah.
before in several different programs.
Yeah. Um, I just don't like the way that the corner ones operate. They don't seem to follow a pattern I would expect. See, I would expect another quarter rotation, not a whole 180 from that last thing that you clicked.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think
Maybe.
it's a matter of getting used to the silly thing. And
Yeah.
the one thing I do not like here so far is on their, this is new, it's a V-carve inlay toolpath.
Hmm.
And there's quite a bit of discussion going on the Vetric forum. Is the only thing you can use in here is a V-bit. A lot of people are using a tapered ball nose, like a 30-second tapered ball nose on their inlays. They get a little less
Hmm.
chip out.
Well, there was a specific technique with the V carve inlays that allowed for very sharp corners um, that you couldn't get with the ball end mill, even the
Yeah,
Right.
tapered ones.
So they use the clearance bit too for the flat areas. I don't
Yeah.
see that in this.
yeah, right here.
Yeah, okay, there it is. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been using engraving bits because a lot of those V bits, they don't come to an absolute point.
Yeah.
Almost all of them they're ground at the tip, but they just, most of the manufacturers don't advertise it. And so you can't use those in here either. And
Okay.
I asked Vetric about it, and yeah, by design or by an engineering mathematical thing, you can't get a sharp point. However, a 15 thousandths flat tip engraving bit is pretty sharp.
They can do that. Yeah.
And so, they accounted for that.
Hmm.
And the bad part is a lot of people don't realize that their V bit is probably an engraving bit anyway. So they get a little
Yeah.
different depth when they touch off. And I'm guessing there's a lot of people complaining about this. So, they got to leave something for the next update.
Yeah.
I'm getting used to all of this stuff being here
Yeah.
in one area. Collapsing them down is kind of nice if you're focused on one area.
Hmm.
Yeah. If your screen doesn't display enough, sometimes you got to collapse it down to get the bottom row to show.
Screen resolution is a big deal on here as it turns out, because these
Yeah.
are a lot heavier
Yeah.
than 11.5 was.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And it pretty well comes down to the resolution of the screen. I talked to one guy, he's got a very large monitor that he designs on extreme high resolution, and he can't tell the difference from what it was before. I actually like it a little bolder. Even your zero points here are a little easier to see.
Yeah. How about guidelines? Do they show better? The guide dots, do they show a little bit better?
Yeah, I don't think they're too bad.
Before
Yeah,
you
they're
could
darker.
almost never see them.
Yeah, they were pretty light before.
Mhm.
And they operate exactly the same. Most everything operates exactly the same. The couple things that are new, the V inlay and these keep out zones.
Okay.
This keep out zone, I played quite a bit with that.
That's very good for clamps.
Yeah, there was something that came up that was kind of interesting. The one thing is, once you establish a keep out zone, it goes to the extents of the vector. It doesn't follow it around.
Okay.
But in order, you can't recalculate them. You have to clear them and reselect them, and then you can create them new.
Okay.
There ain't a recalculate. If you flip off, or even if you move one, see, it isn't really tied to the vector that created it. You go to create it now, and you just get another one. This one stays there.
Yeah.
It seems kind of clunky for their intent of streamlining things.
Can you hold down the shift key or alternate key or anything to click them? And
Well, you can, click or delete, but you can't click on this silly thing.
you can't use an alternate key or F1 key or something?
No,
Okay.
that's what didn't make much sense to me.
Okay.
Everything else they put a lot of thought into, and I'm guessing maybe they ran out of time, or whoever did it made perfect sense to the person that did it.
There was a fellow who did a video recently where he showed 5 or 6 different exclusion zones, if you will, or keep out zones on his workpiece, and it was in rectangular form. And he did a pattern of drilling holes.
Oh, that was me.
Okay, yeah, I thought that was pretty good, and I think for that application, that'd be wonderful when you're building fixtures or other things.
Well, and
Yeah.
especially if you're newer to it. Let's see here. Let's go. This one here,
Yeah.
I thought was kind of interesting. I made it just silly. It went all over the place. Oops.
Traveling salesman, basically.
And going around here, the sticks showed the keep out zones pretty graphically. Going around there, going good. And then as you get down toward the end, I asked Vectric about it. Right here is where it's going to end. Here is the 0 point, and it blows right through it.
Oh.
And
Yeah.
I'm going, wait a minute.
But didn't it raise?
Yeah, it went to the Z1 on the material setup area. So it went above it, which is okay. But I thought, I kind of anticipated that a keep out zone meant keep out all the way back.
Yeah.
What it came down to was a post processor. And the right up here on the material setup, down here in this home start position, I looked at a dozen different post processors for a dozen different machine manufacturers that's in Vectric, and almost all of them were established around 2005. by the same individual who made them. And at that time, they had this available. So they start out at the home location of these coordinates, and then they end up at those coordinates. And I'm going, okay, but now that you did the keep out zone, you're ignoring them getting to here and back from here. Question that I came up with was, why do I care about this? If I start at the 0 point and the last one I'm done with, just raise it up. Don't try to transit back. Because the one thing on my machine anyway, and I'm sure there's a few others, but this one, I simplified it quite a bit. You notice how it swings out and then follows the line. The size of the material is like throughout this 3 hold down zones. Stop. As this thing runs, it's going back to here to drill without keep out zones. But you notice that it swings to the side and then follows the edge back. So if you had clamps in here, that's where you'd clip them if you're not high enough. Because to me, the whole thing behind a keep out zone would be to leave it as low as possible and not be afraid of clipping something. That way you don't have to raise up to that clamp height and then back down and then back up and then back down and then back up. Keep it down as low as you can for as long as you can and reduce all that raising and lowering. But when you do a G0, if it starts here at where my mouse is, and it's got to get back to here, the program shows that it's going straight back, but it really isn't. Like here, you would think it'd be following that line. What it appears to be doing instead is on a G0, the axes are independent. They're not, what do they call it, interpolated. A G0 says Y, go as fast as you can, X, go as fast as you can all at the same time. So it cuts a 45-degree angle, and then X keeps on moving to get to where it needs to be. So instead of doing the straight line, it's actually a dog leg in here, which would then make it to where you could hit your clamps. So, and you know, it raised some questions that I never really paid attention to before. You know, going to that home location is the basic problem. And I can't think of a good reason why you want to do this. You know, because it throws it in there as a G0 move, not a G1 where it's a coordinated move in a straight line. Now, I don't know if all machines do that or not, or, you know, people just haven't noticed.
It looks like in this particular instance, you had your home position set at 0, which, if I'm not mistaken, is in the center of your board.
Well, I'm sorry, on this one here, no, this was just one I was playing with.
Okay.
The actual video, it would have been set up right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so on this project, it was just 0 was here in this corner. Well, it'd be normally the lower left.
Yep.
And this was just a simple drill hole back here.
Okay,
And,
so quadrant 1 of the plane, all values positive.
Yep. And then up in here, the keep out zones. Where did I put the video? Oh, right there. I added a couple keep out zones in here. And so this same thing, I started here, went back to here, but I put a couple keep out zones. You know, in reality, they'd only be back here on a clamp, but I wanted to exaggerate it a bit. and I'm redoing the post processor. It starts out here. Now it's following the feed rate rather than the G0 command. It's a G1 command.
Mm-hmm.
So it's following it at the feed rate, comes back, hits it. See, now the old one with the home, see how it cut across everything?
Yeah.
Yeah,
This one, by disabling that homing option in the post processor, just raise it up and leave it there.
Mm-hmm.
That way, because I have clipped pull down clamps because of this, where if you use this thing here, it's a G0, quickest way there, fastest with the Y and fastest with the X, and draws a 45-degree line. So,
rapid transit. Yeah,
and I'm guessing, just my guess, this has always been there. And maybe it was there for another reason that has since been outgrown.
Mm-hmm.
Unknown.
the gap above material, they set that so you can clear your clamps and all that before, I believe.
Well,
Yeah.
that's up here on the Z1.
Uh-huh,
That's your clamp clearance height.
okay,
And this was so you could start it from some other location.
yeah,
And so if your clamp clearance height is here, see, to me, that's where the keep out zones allow you to get around those without having to have this at a higher than necessary height.
okay,
If you can keep it as low as possible, like we were talking a minute ago, if you can keep it down to the surface, that way you don't, between every vector, raise up, move over, and then come back down. If you can
right, you
stay
waste
there,
too much time.
Well, go to your material setup on the left side, the top icon.
on the left
Uh,
side,
in the file operations menu.
over here.
Set up your material,
Yep.
yeah,
Oh, the job setup.
yeah,
Here, let me cancel this one out because it gets mad if you got them both open.
okay.
Over here.
Yeah. Hold on. Okay. So you have your 0 set in the middle.
Yeah, for this one.
Yeah, for this particular one. If you went back to that other tab that we had open previously and you set a different um set of coordinates, how big is this piece? I missed it. Anyway,
Well, hey,
if
do
you
you want to, let's
Like,
see.
like, for example, you go to lower left for as your starting point.
yeah.
Yeah,
Let's get a tool path in here so we can see something.
Mhm.
okay,
Okay, close enough. Uh, yeah, we don't care what it is.
Right. And now before you had the screen that was showing us the start point. Where was that?
Oh, the material setup.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you can
Okay.
change this.
Yeah. So now currently your 0 is down in the bottom right corner.
Right.
Yeah. And so set
So,
it at 6.6 and then 3 inches above or something like that. And
yep.
Now
Yeah, and it moves it over here,
Mhm.
but your 0 point is still here.
So if you simulated the tool path and we watched it at a speed slow enough to follow.
Yeah, I noticed on here, even if you got it slow as it'll go and the animation on,
Mhm.
it's pretty quick.
yeah,
It doesn't
Yeah, so
show.
we never saw
Yeah, you
it.
never.
Don't they still have the one where it will show there's a box you check for showing the toolpath?
right there,
These new icons are killing me.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Well, this is just slow, but isn't
Yeah.
showing the draw tool path either, or the draw tool.
Okay. Yeah, see,
Yeah.
previously we were able to see where it was going,
Yeah, yep.
the tool path. Now apparently we're not.
You
So
simulate the tool moving.
yeah, so even though
Hey, I
the
think
home
we locked it up.
even though the home position is in
Oh,
the bottom left corner.
simulate tool path is still. Hey,
Still
neat.
running.
Outstanding. I finally locked it up.
Yeah, you had
Just
to be
trying to run
streaming to do
slow.
it. That
I was doing a lot of clicking. I was pretty click happy with it.
yeah.
It ain't
So
even gonna let me shut it off.
Still making the tool path.
yeah,
Probably.
and it
One inch,
probably
one
won't
inch
let it
per
go
hour.
until the tool path is done.
We can make it get mad.
No, why don't you just leave it go? We can continue to talk
Well,
and see
yeah.
if it ever finishes.
Oh, here is an interesting thing. There's your rotary type of tool paths. I know uh, Randall Newcomb was talking about indexing,
Mhm.
and I wasn't sure if he was going to be on tonight, so I pre-popped these up. He was trying to get it to where you can do a two-sided or a job twice, basically putting all the code together into a single file.
Gotcha.
And this is how I did it. Now, this has been now 2.5 years ago or 2 years ago. Is, just stack them on top of each other. The video on this silly thing, because a lot of people are wanting to get indexing.
Hmm.
And there's a way you can do it, so long as you don't follow the rules. This is quite a while ago that
Now, for
this one.
the folks who are watching who may not be familiar, you're making a distinction between wrapping and indexing,
and
correct?
and combining the two together.
Yes. Okay.
For instance, this is what it turned out with, was an asymmetric turning here,
Hmm.
and then surfacing off the four faces, and then coming back and putting a number on each face.
Yep.
And we'll speed this up a little bit, get it down here. See, this is a wrapped vector. Very long vector, is probably 10,000 inches, and just wrapped around this thing and projected onto a 3D tool or a 3D model. And it just follows it, spinning along pretty good. Somebody said it was that leg lamp. I just wanted
Wow.
something a little crazy. Now here is the indexing.
The same bit. Hmm.
Well, this one was a different bit. The other
Oh,
one
okay.
was a core box. This is just a surfacing bit.
With the
And
power of
then
editing.
do all four sides. And now switch it to a V bit and just making a mark in them. I could have made an easier cut.
Nice corners there.
Yeah. And then you rotate it and then put another number on there. And basically, just how in the heck can you do this in the software? And over here, what I did, it's a modified post processor that Vectric, one of the employees at Vectric, had talked about on the San Diego virtual meeting in 22, I believe, that you toolpath notes. I think this come up before in this group, and you put them in here as to what you want it to do. Down here, it's just a rectangle, that you're milling out. And on this first one, it doesn't do anything. So you just line it up flat side up. The second one, you put an A90 in here. Some people like to put in a G90 and all that kind of business. But if it's already in absolute mode, it's a modal code, so you don't have to keep putting it back up, but it's cheap insurance. So there's 90, here's 180, and then at 270, it did all four sides because you started at 0. Here on the V curve, I went back to A0 and put in, let's reduce some of these lines. Here's the number 1 that it cut, then the number 2, and it's vectored, number 3 and number 4, and it's stepping through, rotating it as you go. So all of this can be generated into a single G-code file like you normally would. And it's a 3-axis post processor, not a 4th-axis post processor.
Okay.
It's just that you're passing additional code using this option here. Works pretty good.
So does the notes, that just tells you where you're at, or does it actually operate code from the notes?
Let's go ahead and generate the deal. Let's see. Yeah, this is close enough for what we're doing. And we'll put it over here. We'll put it here. 4-sided index. I don't have anything out there yet. Now let's go back here and get that file. And here is the G code. You can see there X, Y, and Z. So it's not a rotary file, it's a 3-axis. But you see right here, this is what enables that. The toolpath notes in the post processor, there is a variable that you put in there to pull it. You can do it, I think, out of 3 places: the file notes, the tool database notes, and the tool path notes. Any one of those 3 can pass these this information. See right here is the A90. And then in my post processor, I added this so I knew where the heck it was coming from.
Oh.
And so this is just a comment on my controller. Mach 3 has parentheses.
Okay.
This one has 2 slash marks for comments. But here's 180. It flips at 180 and then does the next flattening. And there's 2 tool paths to flatten that.
So it's pulling code from the notes, right? Is that correct?
Yep, and then passing them into here so you don't have to manually edit G code.
Okay.
Scares the daylights out of a lot of people. They don't like to get in here and perform the little bit of brain surgery type of thing.
So for instance, on this one, you're at A270, and toolpath flatten number 4. I'm talking about.
Yep.
You're at 8. You're at just prior to that. You're at X4 1/4, Y0, and your Z height is at 1/4 inch. Then you're passing it toolpath 4 flatten, which is just your comment, but then you're getting the speed at 16.5 and an M3. Okay. And then it reads the A270 from the notes, and then it tells us, it puts a comment as well that this is a toolpath note.
What this here, if you put it here on, gee whiz, stop that. If you put it here, let's see, we were at flatten 4, I think,
Yes.
and we were here with the A270.
Mm-hmm.
It happens at the beginning of this toolpath.
Gotcha.
All these notes happen at the start of each one of these toolpaths if you add it in there. So it's the first thing that happens, which, okay, there's the rule set. And so when you come back over here, it throws it in. Here's the flatten 4. First thing it does is it flips it 270 absolute rather than relative. Yeah, you could put a whole bunch more G code in here, like a G91, change it to relative, do a 90 and A90, and then switch it back again to a G90 so it goes back to relative. It gets confusing if you don't have your head with enough caffeine in the morning.
Okay. My question for you, Milo, is, are you manually inputting the comment toolpath notes after the A270?
Here,
Or is that
let's show you that.
being generated automatically from this post processor?
Hey, this program's still thinking.
It's dead.
I think I pretty well killed it, that one.
Yeah.
If Vetric's watching, sorry.
Yeah.
Or watches at some point.
Every new software
Data folder.
breaks in some circumstances. Maybe they'll be able to reverse engineer the circumstances.
Well, they're probably telling me something like, quit being so click happy.
Yeah.
Do I have
Give it
to
a
have a
minute.
special, do I have to have a special post processor to pull that from the notes?
Here, I'll show you right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the answer is yes.
Did you? Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Now,
Okay.
if you don't, one thing that's kind of important to mention, so yeah, it won't even let me close it down here,
Alternate
is
control delete.
if you don't use this, no harm, no foul. It'll just go on past it because there's nothing there. So
Okay.
by enabling this feature, if you don't use it, it doesn't do anything.
Okay.
If you do use it, it's got to be legitimate G code.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the way you get to that, if you've never done it, you go to File, Open Application Data Folder, and it was the same in 11 and 10 and 9.
Okay.
And here on My Post P is where these post processors are.
Mm-hmm.
We'll pop up the one that we just used. Let me drag it over here. And let's zoom in a little bit. See, this was originally written, the core of this thing was written in 2005 when we were talking about that going to the home locations.
Mm-hmm.
And this is pretty common right off the header that they try to document what was done so you can figure out why the person did it.
Mm-hmm.
But down here, right here on this toolpath notes, as Bill mentioned, it was right after the speed on the spindle.
Mm-hmm.
And here is the variable. There's 2 brackets, open bracket and a closed bracket with the toolpath notes. That is where it goes to read that information. And then I added the 2 slashes in the toolpath notes for a comment.
Gotcha.
In Mach, you'd put a opening parentheses and a closed parentheses. In this Delta controller, they would consider it legal to put another 2 slashes in here and I could enter a secondary note.
Yeah.
Mach gets mad and says you cannot put a note in a note. You can't combine them. So that's a limitation with there. But I put one here, and then down here when you change tools, there's tool path, and right here again. So when you have a new segment or a new tool path, then it gives you opportunity to do it again. So the one is the first tool path, and then this one is for all the subsequent tool paths. That's the only 2 places you put it. Under new segment.
Very powerful.
And under the header. And
Very
that
powerful.
equates to, let's get back over here. See, the very first one that you would put in here, there would go at the top. From then on out, all the rest of these are down in that new segment because it's a new tool path.
Yeah. The reason I was obsessing about the comment, the two slashes in the toolpath thing coming up, because I was thinking of a possible application for this. I have one machine that uses PathPilot, which is a variant of Linux CNC, and we can often pass notes to the operator during the course of the thing. Remember to turn the vise around for this step before, and we throw in an M3 to get it to pause before this happens, or whatever, or M2 or M3. There's an M01. Oh Lord, I've forgotten. Anyway, we do an optional stop basically, and then it pops up the note to us. This is even cooler because it's actually becoming part of the actual G code where it's, actually being operated on. But
Yeah, let's play with this one on that
brilliant.
flat 4.
Yeah.
You can add multiple lines in here.
Mhm.
And now you got to hit apply. And now let's regenerate that same G code again. And let's see. Let's do just that one. And we'll go save toolpath. And flatten 4, save. And here's the notes Bill wants to know.
Yeah.
Nice.
And
Very
then
cool.
add the A300 and A400. You can put multiple lines.
Mhm.
This also makes it to where if you chose to do the G91 and do a relative movement from that location, so I only want to go 90 degrees instead of the absolute to, like, say 180. You go G91, A90. Well, then on the next line, you got to shut it back off. Otherwise, everything is relative after that point. So on the second line, you can do G90 to put it back. You cannot put a G91 and a G90 on the same line because then it's trying to turn it on and off at the same time.
They
Yeah.
call it a loop.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Does not compute.
yep, the thing is, it has to be able to be legitimate G code.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, it's very powerful. It can also get you in pretty deep, but hey, at least you know who did it.
So you can I can add that to Mach 3, right?
Yes, sir.
Uh-huh. I just caught something cool.
Yeah, this
Back to my guru days.
yep, this thing here in the header, wherever you want it to happen,
Okay.
and down here in new segment. I've put it in Mach 3 and in the Delta. I think there's a few other people that are using it in other controllers.
Yeah.
It seems to work and play well with several different systems.
Very
This
cool.
is also how, if you got a rotary and you want to move the y-axis a little bit, because if you're on a rotary and you're cutting top dead center on the spindle, technically that center of that bit is not cutting, it's just rubbing, it's rotating around. So if you shift the bit slightly, then you're cutting with the wing. Well, all you have to do is put in the notes y 0.125. And then on mine, see, my rotary goes down the x-axis, so all the A's all the Y's are converted into A. And they said, well, you can't pass a Y out to the G code because it'll convert it, except in the notes. So let's say I came in here and let's pretend this was a rotary job actually. And if I put here in the notes a Y 0.125, all of that other code would run, but at the start of it, it would shift Y 1/8 of an inch in the positive direction for this machine, and then cut the rotary job and then shift back when you're done. So you can do a lot of control of it if you just play around. It opens up a lot of possibilities that quote unquote can't be done easily. I mean, you could go in there and manually add this stuff, but it scares the daylights out of people. This is a lot friendlier.
You could do offset turning with that, basically,
Yes, sir.
which is what you were demonstrating.
Well, and yeah, because
Yeah.
I've done that several times, is to where I cut down the side of a stick. Do
Yeah.
you recall that one, that
Mhm.
twisted square?
Yep.
You can do a
It's-
cleanup path.
well, you can even do more.
Milo, where can folks go to look at some of these videos that you posted?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is under Milo Scott Studio on Facebook.
Mhm.
And there's a bunch of them in here that go back quite a ways.
Yep. Just giving value to the folks who may watch this at some point.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
It's like everything else, you're hesitant to do something. And then after you do it, you go a little further. This one here was fun. This
Yep, I
was
just found
done by offsetting the Y to the side. You'll see it shift here. And here it's just taking off the corners because I gotta, shape the piece prior to.
Mhm.
right, get your excess.
Yep. So it's indexing around, just cutting a straight line, only shifted to the side. Now here is a rotary job, but it's shifted to the side instead of cutting on top.
Wow.
Mhm.
And none of the G code, quote unquote, was manually adjusted. It was done through the notes section.
That's freaking amazing.
Yeah, and if you did this using a wrap toolpath, it would take forever compared to this. You
Yeah.
just cut
Oh,
that in real time.
if you did
Um,
a 3D cut of that, yeah, just imagine how long that would take.
yeah.
And you're done in a few minutes.
Mhm.
And nearly any controller is capable of doing that.
That's exactly why I didn't do rotaries, because I didn't know I could do this little secret trick here.
Yeah, the rotary on the wrapped rotary, this one was 4 years ago. This is, I was just playing around to see if I could. It's what would be considered continuous rotation, but it's just a long vector wrapped around it, and it's in the gadgets.
Yeah.
Here is just, all of this is wrapped vectors and laid on a 3D model. And here's shaping the ice cream cone is what this is. Just kind of a silly little thing to play around with. Now here, I'm cutting the twist of the soft serve ice cream.
Mhm.
And you notice it's just going back and forth on the Y, and it's rotating underneath of it. Here is the waffle cone. You're only going on the Y axis, going straight forward, but you're following a angled vector.
Jeez.
And so now you can't have just a solid type. You got to have a crosshatch.
Mhm.
Jeez.
And so this has been capable for a long time. They didn't have any video or tutorials on it. They've added a couple. And here you got
Round over, plunge round over.
yeah, just bend it or cutting the top and the bottom of the cone. And I wasn't quite brave enough to come down here to a 0 distance. And so I put it on the lathe, cut this off, and then shaped it manually up here, and then cut the bottom off. And yeah, works pretty darn good.
It's like you got a chocolate
Amazing.
vanilla twist there.
Yeah, wasn't that weird how that turned out?
Yeah, you just inspired me because before it was in doing the rotary, it was so tedious and all that. It seemed like it took forever. I completely lost interest
Yep.
because because I knew there was a better way, but I just couldn't figure it out, and I didn't know anybody that knew it.
Do you know about that wrapped vector?
Well, kind of. I stopped experimenting with it a couple of years ago, so I don't recall everything, but I remember it was wrapped and all that, and but I
Here,
got tired of it because it just seemed to be tedious.
we'll do something real simple here.
Mhm.
Shut down some of this silly stuff. And this one still don't want to close.
Alternate control delete.
There we go. There we go.
There you go.
That's
Look at
one way
all
to
that stuff.
Let's see.
Look at all that. Yeah.
Oh, this is only a fraction.
Yeah, you should see
You know,
mine.
it's like closets. The bigger the closet, the more crap you got in it.
You're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, a few years ago, I organized all of the icons into 5 folders, and then it began to proliferate again. So it's all covered now.
Yeah, it just
Yeah.
never quits.
Yep.
Here's the way my system sets up: rotary job, size and diameter. Now, if you use a square component, you're tempted to put the diameter in here as the flats, you know, from flat to flat. You don't
Okay.
want to do that. You want to go from point to point.
Okay.
The biggest dimension. I don't care if it's a rectangle. You go point to point for this size. Otherwise, when it swings around, it'll hit the bit
Okay.
because it doesn't account for it. Cylinder axis is what I do. Some of the machines are hard to try to figure out where the center rotation is, but it never changes. This lower left corner, right down here, what this actually means on here is this is 0 degrees. This is 360 degrees.
Okay.
So one revolution, if you want to go one time around, all you have to do is put in a vector like this. And if you put a profile toolpath, well, barley twist is fine. And let's go about maybe 3/8 of an inch. And we'll calculate that and we'll preview it.
Wow.
And there is your barley twist. And now if we come back here to the 2D view, this gadgets, wrapping, spiral layout. Now I added one in here because it was not calculating correct here. Their
Mhm.
pitch was off, so pretty minor. We'll just use theirs. Spacing between strands for now, we'll just try that for 1. Here's 5. Normally you'd take the width of this bit. Let's go cancel. So, this is a 1-inch diameter barley twist bit. This is out of magnate. I don't have how high it is. This is the shape of the bit. So we'll cancel that out. We'll just use that one. That's fine. Close that. Let's go to gadgets, wrapping. spiral layout. And let's go spacing between strands, the size of the bit. And let's start an inch from the, an inch from the left and an inch from the right. You can even do a right hand twist or a left hand twist. We'll go ahead and do a right hand. It's only going to go 2.7 times around. Here are your crooked vectors for you already.
Okay.
Let's select those. Now, if you unwrap it here, this is as if your cylinder was stomped flat. And here is where it's wrapped back up, and you can see the crooked vectors.
Okay.
And here they're wrapped around. And now when you preview,
Jeez.
kind of quick, cuts very fast, because all you're doing is cutting a single line that goes, and it goes on to the next one. And then, of course, if you want to do a hollow spiral, same vectors. And we'll do another profile toolpath, and let's try a, I'm not real sure how tight this is, but it must not be very big. Let's do an end mill. And let's do a spiral end mill. In my goofy shorthand, let's just do a 1/4 inch. What the heck? And let's go down about halfway. So 1.5, it was a 3-inch cylinder.
Okay.
Yeah. You select on the vector or
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's on the vector right now.
Yep. Okay.
Just for speed, we'll go to single pass. But it's, yeah, it's on this same vector, because see that barley twist was on the vector as well.
Gotcha.
And we go calculate. At least I think it was. Yep, on. And close. And let's flatten this back out. And yep, they're returning. So now we can cut this. If you think of the rotary as nothing more than a 3-axis job, you can wrap it around your head a little easier, to me anyway. And we go in here, and we're going to preview visible. You see where it cut down through there?
Yeah.
And now when you wrap it back up, there is your hollow spiral twist. Pretty straightforward.
Jeez.
You want to get even weirder? What if you did this as a fluting tool path, so that you sweep in on the bottom and you sweep out on top? Here's a fluting tool path. We'll ramp the start and the end, and we'll do a ramp length of like 1.5 inches with that same bit. Where are you? End mill. Plunge spiral. Let's just use a 1/4 inch bit. It doesn't matter if it's the same one or not. Select. We're going to go a flute depth of 1.5. We'll do a smooth one. Calculate it. Reset it. Let's stomp it flat. Do the first, and we'll just do those two. And you see how it sweeps?
Oh, yeah.
Instead of doing just a blunt entry and a rather severe angle like this, you'd have a very rough edge in there. So now if you sweep it up nice, you have a nice flow.
Entry. Yeah.
So yeah, no big mystery. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is.
2x2s, you cut up a 2x4. They make affordable practice pieces. We don't want to call them cheap.
Well, I started to build a rotary axis for my machine, and then it got to be tedious, and it just something was missing, so I stopped and continued with other things. But now I'm re-inspired. I really appreciate that.
Well, and on the rotary, I won't be able to find it if I'm looking for it, but I think it was homing limits. Down here on the A, have been some machines that were set to a very, very low number, like 359,
Okay.
because they'd do one rotation. See, this is set to 1,000,000 degrees for limitation. And
Okay.
that way you can do that continuous rotation. Some of the controllers do not allow continuous rotation of thousands and tens of thousands of degrees. Now, let's say you did this and you got wrapped up here at, 80,000 degrees. Well, the next tool path, if it starts at 0, what's it got to do? It's got to rewind all those winds back to 0, or you'd put a G92A0. G92A0 at the next tool path resets your digital readout, your value of A back to 0. So it doesn't have to sit there and rewind.
Oh,
I've
man.
had somewhere it would take over 10 minutes to rewind. But they're again using this silly thing. Yeah, now it opens up yet another capability of doing it.
Notes.
Yep. Simple as that. And it's always been there. It's just that weren't even aware you could use it.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And then see up here in the other place, as long as we're here, and this is CNC related,
Sure. More the merrier.
is right here. Trouble is, people use this for a lot of things. So to me, this was not a viable option to take away anything that I was using here just to be able to use it. Now, yeah, you could use a whole nother set of tools, and for the dedication of just using this, and there's one more over here at Edit and Notes. And this is the file notes. And there's a bunch of people that use this. When I asked people who used this one, I didn't find anybody. So I go, that's the one we want to use. If nobody
Nobody's
else
using it?
uses it, that's
Yeah.
a good one to use if they aren't currently being utilized by a lot of people.
Wow.
So simple enough for any other.
Well,
Yeah, but
he's got the video recorded, so I'm going to go out there and I'm going to probably study that thing for the next 20 hours, and I won't be able to sleep tonight.
Nah, just do it for 1 hour and go out and play.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, the bit got to hit the wood.
Yeah.
Now, here's
What
another one that's really
before you go on, Milo,
Yes.
one thing I like about this technique above anything else you've shown is that you don't have to use a gadget. It's the post processor. It's right in the G code. That's all. Go ahead.
Yeah, the gadget. What is it? That isn't available in what, desktop, I think, but it is in
Yeah.
VCarve and Aspire on the higher
Yeah.
end. But I mean, these gadgets are preloaded. So it's, Vector keeps saying, well, hey, if it's a gadget, we're not responsible, but they kind of put these here.
Yeah.
This fluting layout. See, this one here is the one that is intended to be used for 3D or for rotary. I don't use any of them because these are very restrictive, but for good purpose. We were talking about some of the controllers are only good for positive 360, negative 360, like a washing machine. That's what this is designed around. because it goes 360 forward, 360 back until you get it rounded, or back and forth along the body.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, which I can
Kind of leaves a
understand
witness
why it's
mark
there.
too.
Say again?
It kind of leaves a witness mark too, that
Yeah. Yep.
zero.
Yep. So I understand why it's there now. At
Mhm.
first I thought, why would you do this? But I understand after I've dealt with a few more people. The gadgets, wrapping, fluting tool path. Let's say you want 8 flutes. And we'll start an inch and end an inch, same old thing. And you hit OK. They space them for you automatically. So now they're evenly spaced around that cylinder.
Okay.
So if you just want to do a vertical flute. Now, if you want to get real crazy, we just, you guys don't stop me. I just keep going.
Keep going.
Let's get rid of all this. And let's get that off. What if you want a crosshatch? Wrapping, spiral, spiral. And we'll do the spacing between strands is 1 inch, 5. Click both of these, a right hand and a left hand.
Mm-hmm.
And now it gives you 2 sets of angle vectors. You probably already know what's going to happen. And we'll do this. We'll reset it. Let's stomp it flat to see what it looks like, and we'll preview those.
Look at that crosshatch.
Yep. After you look at it, it's kind of makes sense.
How are you dealing with the ends to get them cleaned up
Nice
afterward?
and clean.
Yeah. You're just doing a regular
No,
cutout tool path?
I'll show you where it's built in. Let's go ahead and start over again. Gadgets, wrapping, spiral, spiral layout.
I saw the cove.
Yep.
Wasn't sure that was it.
Yep, right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now we'll come down here. Okay. Okay. It throws a vertical line like we did before.
Mhm.
We'll just use that same bit to make it pretty.
Mhm.
And there it is. We'll come down here to go calculate. We'll reset it. We can leave it like this, but it stomps flat anyway. And see, now you've got a better finish up here by using the same bit.
That I can convert that to reed top or whatever.
Mhm.
Yep. Or you could put a V bit in here and have a different look to it. Magnate has several form bits that Legacy Woodworking had asked of them years ago when they had a hand crank
Mhm.
rotary milling machine back in the 90s. You know, that sounds terrible. It was just the other day, the 90s.
Yeah,
It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
30 years
Only
ago.
30
Yeah,
years.
30 years.
Yeah. Long enough to grow a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So very, very powerful tool capability, and you get a really nice visual indication that, oops, nope, that isn't what I wanted. Or yeah, that's what I wanted. If you want them a little bit bigger, then it's just a matter of let's delete all this stuff again. Gadgets, wrapping, spiral, spiral. Let's do only, well, let's do 3. See what happens. And I'll select all these guys, and this one here is what, whoops. And we can do there. Reset it. preview. Now you got a different shape, a
Yes.
little flatter. And it turns out exactly this way.
I'm guessing Kurt's not gonna be working on the camper this weekend.
Yeah, you just about ruined my weekend. Jeez.
Yep, you're gonna be cutting up a bunch of 2x4s.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was gonna work on it this weekend, but I got, yep, I'm gonna do, yep, Bill, you're right.
Yep.
We did
My
a
wife's
we
gonna
did
be, yep, my wife's gonna
yeah.
be flipping out. Why aren't you working on that camper?
Mm. Well, I needed some spindles for the cabinets, dear. Uh,
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
there you go.
um, anyway, we did a fourth axis project at Morrisville College. You got 2 decimals. Yeah. Uh, um, and that was their senior project. They built up a fourth axis pretty inexpensively. Um, I have pictures somewhere and the plans as well because they had to drop plans. But
I took an old Wen desktop lathe, took the
mhm,
spindle off and the tail stock off, and I started to put a belt drive into the spindle and use an old motor motor from Hobby CNC to drive the
mhm,
spindle. And then I got into that. Then I started, well, I'm going to need some code. So I started working at the code and I go, hey, this is awful tedious. I don't think I want to do this right now. And so then I went start building on the camper. But now I see this a better way to do that. Uh-huh. I'm inspired.
yeah, if you can get a shaped bit and you can get what you want by cutting it with a straight vector, the cut time is fast, as opposed to the old inkjet printer going back and forth, cutting
Right.
that thing as you go around. I mean, it
mhm.
makes it to where you can't make any money doing it.
Right.
You know,
Well, a
whereas
lot of people I was talking to, they all said the same thing. They said the time involved is too expensive and blah, 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 everything else. And I said, there's got to be a better way. And nobody really knew the answer. And I
Mhm.
didn't have the time to
yeah,
really
Well, just
think.
well,
imagine applying this to pool cues.
yeah,
With what?
side cutting on a pool cue is really good.
Yeah.
You take and shift to the side.
Mhm.
If you do what the pool cue guys do with a variable speed lathe, to where you have it spinning, and now you can do a 3-axis cut into it. And let's say right here is because while it's spinning, if you did a vector, let's say your part was this big,
Mhm.
and shoot, I was pretty close. So that's your blank.
Mhm.
And let's say we want to take and start out here. We're going to come into about here and then taper it back to here.
Well,
If you do a lead in like this,
I still see
what you
the,
want to do, otherwise you'll get like a ripple right here, is that if you change on some controllers, if you change direction hard, it takes a while for it to stabilize. If you do a pretty good, let's go like a 2-inch fillet here. If you do a sweep in like that, then it works pretty good. All it is a profile cut. We don't want to use barley twist.
my screen's locked up.
Oops, you're not seeing me.
No,
We're seeing you real good.
Yeah, you're fine. It's
I'm seeing this spindle you just did a minute ago. Oh, there we go.
Oh, it caught up.
Yeah.
End mill. Let's do an end mill. Let's do a spiral end mill and let's do a long one. Here's a 2-inch depth of cut. And we'll select that guy. I'm
Okay.
always on the wrong side of this silly thing. You got to go on the side of the vector instead of on the vector.
Yeah.
Of course, you got to select the darn thing.
There we go.
And now you wouldn't want to cut this way. Well, yeah, you're doing norm. You can play around with it. As long as you're spinning clockwise, you're going to be tearing up this wood pretty good. If you do a climb cut into it when you're going uphill like this, that is usually a little better.
Okay.
Some guys will cut them both ways, but because, oops, come on. Start at
Yeah, that's
back
a lot
here.
of material at the start of the cut.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you would actually do 2 or 3 vectors to sneak up on this. See, now that I switched location, it switched to the other side. And so let's take and we got to switch that back. Climb then. And that, well, you son of a gun. Do it this
Lab
way.
demos are always challenging.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're still here to have fun. There. And then that would give you a tapered body for like the bottom end of your pool cue.
Okay.
And a lot of pool cue guys, from what I understand, is they will cut them big, let them sit for a month and let it settle down, and then skim it again, let it set, and skim it again and let it set as it stabilizes. Then after several of those, they get a nice straight stick.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and that is, again, that would be a 3-axis cut.
Yep, and you can still do stuff like the knurling and barley twists and all that other kind of
Absolutely.
stuff. You know,
Now
and now it's trivial.
this is what caught my eye on this, is that you can tell we're in a 4th axis job setup. But I just said we're going to do this as a 3-axis job. All you do is you save it out as a 3-axis post processor. It doesn't matter that we're in a 4th axis job setup here. You can mix the two. You just have to know that, okay, I turned on my lathe, I got it spinning. So I want X, Y, and Z to work because A doesn't matter. Well, now you save this off as a 3-axis job, not a 4th axis job, and it will sit here and follow that line while it's spinning. Now you go back, and of course, in this case, it wouldn't work because, you know, your lathe isn't able to do cross hatching because it's just sitting there spinning.
Right.
On my system, I've got a special code that allows it to just spin. Then I can cut that portion, then come back and do the knurling portion.
Damn.
You know, so there's limitations. I mean, I think on Mach 3, somebody came up with the idea of, well, Billy, I think you mentioned at one time, an independent controller.
Yeah.
To sit there and spin your rotary. And when you get done, shut that off and now do it computer controlled for the crosshatch.
Yeah.
If it won't let you, you just got to be more creative.
I think if you were to use like a not a clear like a clear path or one of those other stepper motors, the closed loop stepper motors, you could set it up to do both.
Yeah, that's what mine will do.
Yeah.
And it's pretty handy. I mean, you can switch back and forth without major alteration.
Yeah.
Does that mean, you know, people are very creative?
When there's a need, there's a want, and then you got to create.
Yep. And the need on some of this, or actually it's a want, I suppose, too, for higher end houses with barley twist spindles, newel
Mhm.
posts, just all kinds of different things.
Yep.
That I've been involved with both newel posts and spindles here in the last few months.
Yeah, we
I could
did
put some barley post in my camper.
Yeah.
and that would be a great reason to work on the fourth axis.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
just be happy that you get it round to begin with.
Mhm.
Once you get it around, you go anywhere from there.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I think we still got a few minutes. We're on a roll. If you had a square stick, and we said that you can't, or you have to put down the point to point. We'll go back here to an inch and a half. Oh, one thing is, if you try to change this now, it distorts the daylights out of this, whatever vector you have in here. It's
Okay.
something that I don't think is right, but they haven't fixed it yet. See, this is an inch and a half square. Rotate at 90, and it's 2.1213 point to point. So that is the size you would want your job setup to be.
Okay.
Now here, I'm going to do a copy of this just because I know what's going to happen. If I go in here and I now change this to 2.1213, because we figured out that that's what it really should have been.
Yeah, it squished it.
And
Squish.
so there's what happened to your vector. Now I copied it before I did this, and now when I paste it back in here, so if you find out that you have to change your stock dimensions, copy all your vectors or cut them, with a Control C or a Control X,
Okay.
then redo it and then paste them back.
Okay.
And the answer I got from Vetric here quite a while ago is it shouldn't do that. You can change the length and it doesn't pull it. And they said, well, you should know the size of your stock before you start. And I said,
Oh,
now,
give me a break.
I go, now, wait a minute. If I got a 90% solution, shouldn't I be able to redo that with a different size?
Yeah.
Evidently not. But it's okay, until enough people start using it. But to do that rounding, if you just knock off the points of the square stock, what if you just took these points off? You go right back here to a fluting layout. You've got 4 corners. And let's say that you're actually able to cut from end to end, because all this is going to be calculated to the center of the bit. And you go, okay. Now, if you start out at 0 degrees right here, so you put your stock in flat side up. When this goes to run, this first one is 45 degrees. So it's going to kick it around to pointy side up. You just run a vector across the top of it and you just cut one line going down there with a surfacing bit.
Uh-huh.
Then this tool path will rotate it 45 plus 90 at 135, one line. This one cranks around another, and then this one cranks around another. And so you take all the points off. Then I can come back and do a rounding tool path with less material.
Less meat. A lot of pre-cut.
Yep. You don't have to take several passes going slow. I can cut these at 200 or 300 inches a minute going from end to end.
Wow.
So yeah, it all started with trying to figure out how to turn the dumb thing round.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, and this is a feature that most people don't pay any attention to in Aspire or VCarve Pro, because they don't understand the fourth axis. They don't if they have one, or they don't have one on on
Well,
their system.
yeah, and there for the longest time, they didn't really have a good tutorials that explained some of the stuff. I mean, some of it was very good, and they put up a few new ones too.
Mhm.
But this one here was what most people assumed you had to do. Like I say, I looked at it once and I said, "Oh no, 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 no."
Right,
Mhm.
right. That's what yeah, same thing. To me, it was, yeah,
And
Yeah, yeah.
but they had to, I believe, design it to the lowest common denominator in this context. I am amazed at how different the rotaries are. Some of them are restricted to 359 degrees, and they go back and forth just like this is where it
Mhm.
probably came from. Some can do unlimited rotation. Some of them can do, I ran into one the other day that was really strange. You got to recalculate how it works. They basically threw something on there and they use X, Y, and Z, but they change how the motor is connected, and it's a Y figure, but it wraps. It didn't do an A rotational axis. Strangest thing I ever seen. But they were probably under pressure to put out a rotary, and speed was more important than good layout.
yeah. They probably had a hard time picking A motor or B motor when they're going from between rotary to straight three
Yeah,
axis.
yeah. And it's if there isn't much demand, then you can't put much effort into it and get any money back. So yeah, I understand business,
Mhm.
but now that more and more people are seeing more and more application and custom uh, spindles, custom ballisters, custom newel posts, any kind of turning. I mean, decorative stuff like the hollow spirals, candlesticks, or whatever. There's a market.
Mhm.
Some of them are very wide, some of them are very narrow. And in the end, it's still kind of fun.
Got to get out and experiment. You got to use the software. You got to try things, and
And if
then you got to
somebody, if,
share.
yeah, and if somebody says you can't, that's what you want to try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was a very interesting meeting. I'm glad I made it tonight.
Barry's gonna be sad he didn't make this because he's all about fourth axis right now.
Uh-huh.
You
Yeah,
know.
What's the name of what's the name of the YouTube channel?
This is under uh Bill
C-
Gregg's YouTube channel, I believe. Or
CNC
am I
Mixer.
under CNC? Yeah. So yeah, just if they look for Bill Griggs, um, got a channel, and I put them out under CNC Mixer. I may change the title to be a little bit more descriptive about all of the fourth axis spindle work you showed us, but uh, it'll be part of the CNC Mixer playlist.
Still under
Did you
Bill Griggs, though. So
Yeah, yeah.
CNC Mixer? I think I just found it.
Yep. Yeah, there's several of them out there. I posted from previous
Yeah, it's
um,
live right now.
meetings. Yep,
yeah, a little bit of a delay.
yep. Yeah, and you got to turn your volume down so you don't have, you know, strobing stereo sound every couple seconds there. But yeah,
Hey,
hopefully
we
this,
got to work around what you have.
yeah, hopefully this is interesting for folks. We haven't really done the live portion of this on YouTube before. We've been doing this in Facebook for a while, but with some of the changes that Facebook just came up with, YouTube might be the new home for the live broadcasting of it, and then we just put the feed into the group later. But we do this every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Guys can join in. There's a Zoom link that you can log into and talk about CNC. And, it's not always the same three guests. It's sometimes 7, 10, whatever. that is, and we just talk about what's cool. So maybe you'll join us next time. We do this, like I said, every week on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern.
Wonderful.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Milo, for sharing what you've been experimenting with the new Vector version 12 and with all the fourth axis stuff. Man, it's just amazing. Totally masterwork stuff.
Well, and the good part is, to me, the version 12 isn't much different than the 11 as far as sequence of events.
Mhm.
It's just, where the heck did they put that icon this time?
Right.
Yeah,
Sooner
the
or
icon-
later, I'll get there.
the icons look so markedly different, and they're like, how do I say this? Maybe muted, or they're not as prominent or bold, in my opinion, the ones that are like 3D. So I'll get used to them.
Yeah.
Look,
But
yeah, look more like Apple applications now.
yeah, yep. So it's one of those things, you either love or hate it, and
Well,
I don't hate it.
I'd seen one comment where it looked like the intent was to move away from Windows sub programs
Yeah,
Right.
to where they weren't affected when Windows decides to change something,
yeah.
adversely affecting their software because they tied into a component of it. So
Mhm.
Right.
okay, that's why it took so long and a lot of effort, I'm certain.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's like everything. The folks who own the platform or the operating system can effectively put a company out of business by just making a simple change, not thinking about the
Just like
consequences
Facebook.
down. Yeah.
Yeah. Windows Vista, Windows
Mhm.
Vista hurt the sign industry big time because the dongle software was designed for the old APIs and all that. And then Windows Vista come out and they came back and they started focusing on adhering to the specifications rather than just randomly patching crap. So they shut down a lot of these sign software packages that were protected by dongles for weeks until people could update. Then it
Mhm.
cost them a fortune because they had to update their hardware. It made a lot of people mad, but whatever.
Yeah.
Well, the spring of 2018, not that it stands out in my mind,
Not at
they
all.
they goofed up every machine that had Mach 3.
Yeah.
Windows
Yeah.
came up with a quarterly or that quarterly update and just killed them all with the push of a button.
Mhm.
And now, yet to this day, you have to change the constant velocity settings to get good milling out of Mach 3.
Yeah.
And I thought, what? But now they were a victim of some other software driving it. That's
Yeah.
how.
Well, here we are on YouTube because uh Zoom, StreamYard, um, uh, you know, Ecamm, Restream, all of those suddenly don't work. Not to mention Hootsuite and other things. So now they no longer work inside of Facebook groups, and I imagine those companies are concerned. So
Well,
yeah,
yeah. Well, Hootsuite hurt a few feelings a while ago too.
yeah,
They went, yeah, you know what I mean.
yeah. Anyway, there's enough of that. That's not CNC related. Let's close it
Yeah,
down, guys. I
yeah.
appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us, and leave a comment, like or subscribe if this has been helpful at all. If it hasn't been helpful, then you're just not paying attention to fourth axis. That's all I'm going to say.
All right,
All
see you
right.
guys.